we are asked to express this expression into a sum of three partial fractions. Now for partial fractions, it's always good to check the power at the numerator and the power at the denominator. Now, if we were to expand this expression, the highest power at the numerator is x squared. If we were to expand this expression, the highest power at the denominator is x cubed. And since the power at the numerator is smaller than the power at the denominator, then we can continue to do the partial fractions. Okay? Otherwise, you have to do the long divisions. Now we are going to express this expression into the partial fractions. First, I need to identify the factors. Now, these factors, because the question says sum of three partial fractions, so I'll classify this factor as repeated factors. Repeated factors plus another linear factor here later will give us three partial fractions. So for repeated factors, I'm going to repeat this factor here until I reach x squared. Okay, next, this factor here is a linear factor. For linear factor, I will have an expression here. Next, I need to fill in the unknown at the numerator. This is repeated factors. For repeated factor, it will be just a constant, a followed by b. Similarly, for linear factors, the numerator will be just a constant. So in this case, I'll use the alphabet C to represent that constant. Now we are going to find the value of a, b, and c. But before that, we need to form an equation. To form an equation, I can bring this part of the expression over to this side. Okay, and this will give us this expression here multiplied by this expression. The x squared and this x can cancel, and we will have this expression. Next, the b over x squared multiplied by x squared, x minus 2, the x squared and the x squared cancel. It will give us this expression. Lastly, c divided by x minus 2 multiplied by this expression. The x minus 2 and the x minus 2 cancel, it will give us a cx squared. Okay. Now, we have formed an equation. From this equation, we are going to find the value of a, b, and c. You can either find the value of a, b, and c using comparing coefficients or substituting some appropriate value of x. The method I'm going to show here is by substitution. For substitution, we substitute an appropriate value of x such that it will make the factor 0. So the factor here is x minus 2. I want to let it to be 0. So for this case, x will be 2. That means I'm going to substitute 2 into this expression here. 2 plus 2 will give you a 4. Then because when I substitute 2 here, 2 minus 2 will give me a 0. 0 multiplied by anything here will be 0. So this is a 0 plus. Similarly, if I substitute a 2 here, 2 minus 2 will give me a 0. 0 times the unknown b, doesn't matter, it will give me a 0. C, x is 2 square. So from here, I can find c. C will be 16 divided by 4. It will give you a value of 4. Now the next value of x to substitute is, this is the factor, so I want this factor to be 0. So I will let this expression to be 0. So x squared is 0 or x is 0. Okay, so now I'm going to substitute the value of x into this expression here. Okay, so x is 0. 0 plus 2 will give you a 2. 2 square. 0, when x is 0, 0 multiplied by everything here will be 0. Okay, so 0 minus 2 is a minus 2. 0 multiplied by c will be 0. So we can find the value of b. b will give us a 4 divided by minus 2. It will give you a negative 2. Seems like we have no more factors. Okay, so but we still have one unknown to find. When we find out b, we find out c. We still have to find out the value of a. Okay, so for this case, we will substitute an suitable value of x. Suitable value of x means when you substitute into this expression, the expression should be simple enough for you to find the value of a. You will not want to substitute the value of x, say 100. because you substitute the x by 100, the calculation will be more complicated, although you still can get the same answer. Okay, so a convenient value of x to substitute is 0, but unfortunately 0 we have used up. Okay, so the next value of x to substitute will be 1. 1 will be a good number. Okay, so I'm going to let x to be equal to 1. Is that if I substitute 1 here, 1 plus 2 is 3 square. Okay, and b we know the value is minus 2. C we know the value is 4. Okay, so A we will have the value of negative 3. So now we are ready to conclude the answer. X plus 2 square over x square x minus 2. Okay, what I do is I'm going to copy all this expression down and substitute the value of A, B, and C into this expression. A is negative 3. B will be negative 2. And C is 4. Substitute 4 into here. Okay, and we have answered to the question. We have expressed this expression into a sum of 3 partial fractions, 1, 2, and the third partial fractions.